Turning a page, ladies and gentlemen, where we try and see if we can seduce you into falling in love with the written word. Always important, no? Because, when you open the book and the fragrance wafts out along with it, ideas. Great to chew on those ideas. And of course, the idea here is to see if we can, get into the mind of the wonderful Faraaz Kazi, who's written the new book, The Sun, the Moon, and the Love in Between. It's about friendships, it's about betrayal. There's much emotion in it, Faraz. Quite a roller coaster that you've put out there, haven't you?
Yeah, it's a new territory for me also because I've always been known for mainstream romances, and now I've forayed into something called something like a mystery or a thriller romance. So it kind of overlaps two genres. So excited, it's getting a good response. And being a writer, I don't want to be tagged just as a one genre kind of a writer. Being a writer is also about exploring other avenues and challenging yourself every time. So
Absolutely.
this was a great challenge and loved writing this one.
Brilliant. So, tell us when did this journey start? Is this a COVID novel? Was this the solitariness of it that got you to write about people falling in love without physically meeting and all of that?
Well, yes and no. This novel was about 6.5 years in the making.
Wow.
It took me a long time. I'm a very moody writer, so I'm not someone who writes like regularly and sets a target for myself, saying, okay, daily I have to do like 500 words, or over the weekend I have to do 2,000 words. Nothing like that. So I am someone who actually believes in the muse, right? And I wait for the muse to visit me, and then it just comes out. So at a time, I can, maybe just finish half the book in one sitting. Like, I can be writing on the go for about 1.5 days, just taking the necessary breaks. So I'm someone like that. It so happened that over a cup of coffee, me and Seher is the co-writer. We discussed the concept, and we started brainstorming on it, and we also wrote the first few initial chapters, but after that, nothing was coming up. It was not moving ahead for some reason, and the COVID break kind of helped, right? It kind of made me just focus on the subject at hand. Also, before, in the gap that we were not writing, we were also researching on, because it has something to do with the third gender. So we were also researching on their lives and their daily struggles, right? So that was pre-COVID. And after learning about all those things and their struggles, it helped kind of, channel my creativity from the inspiration that we got from them. And it just flowed after that. So within the next, I think, 8-9 months, we completed it. And then it was sent to publishers, and the whole process followed.
A lot of people also tend to sort of dismiss it as an equivalent of the moving consumer good on the shelf, saying that it's literally 15 minutes of joy and then you move on. The immediacy of the writing, you have views on that?
Yeah, it's especially in the post Chetan Bhagat era, things got so interesting that so when he came out, it was his first book came out, right? It was priced at about $95, right? By Rupa was the publisher, and that's less than a plate of samosas you get in a multiplex, right?
Yeah.
And the stories were all about, it could be you, it could be the guy next door. It was something that you could relate to, and it was language that everyone could identify with. Like, for example, in the literary world, you had Salman Rushdie saying, okay, when the guy, when the protagonist was feeling as blue as the walls, right? And suddenly the metaphor is about he was feeling depressed, right?
Yeah.
But when Chetan Bhagat says he was feeling as blue as the walls, it might literally mean that he just painted in the holy colors, right? So it was as simple as that. I mean, you had language that people could identify with, right? So that was the era of commercial fiction, and that was when I also wrote my first book, Truly Madly Deeply. That was when I came in that era. Mine, however, was somewhere in the semi-literary category. So I was kind of trying to please both sides of the world, being a fanatic of Rushdies and the Arundhati Roys of the world. So I also wanted to kind of have a grip on the younger generation, because that time romance was selling, and I had something to say on that, right? So it just clicked. But as I said, I don't want to be categorized just as a romance writer. I believe writing is about challenging yourself every time. So
There's
I'm also trying in fantasy, and I don't know when that will materialize. I just told you I'm a very moody writer, so hopefully soon.
There's also this, the tar, the brush that tars writers of a certain genre is a pretty wide one, as you say. That you were trying to sort of sit the fence on on this one. I just want to know how successful you felt. I mean, the longevity of the work. In fact, I'd asked Durjoy Datta this, and he said, "Look, I'm writing books that I don't think will last a very long time. I'm not writing with the generation upon generation reading it, and I've come to terms with it because that's not the kind of book that I want to write. But you do have, literary aspirations, so to speak, for us. So, how was? Let me ask it this way: was sitting on the fence a little painful?
It was because you are neither here nor there, but again, it's also about charting that blue ocean where no one else has forayed in. So, like when for example, my second book, The Other Side, which is actually a horror collection of short stories. In
Right.
fact, India's highest selling horror novel, you can say. So, that also, when I wrote it, I identified an opportunity stating that, no one in India was actually writing raw horror. I mean, you have Ruskin Bond,
Sure.
but that kind of horror is actually read by young adults as well as adults, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of a safe U/A category,
Yeah.
right? I wanted to write horrors that would be comparable to the Stephen Kings of the world.
Hmm.
So that was an area that I identified, and that's how it began. So I feel that if you're clear with respect, I mean, in your mind, if you're clear with respect to who you're writing for, then you don't have to think much about it. You just the
Yeah.
words just flow.
For us, the democratization of art, so to speak, where everything from blogs to Instagram posts are vying for literary attention, so to speak. Do you feel pressure? As you said, you were a moody writer. Does that sometimes come in the way of your comfort as a writer? Do you feel a little discomforted by the fact that out of sight is literally out of mind, and there's so much competition right now? It's expanded so much.
There are two sides to the coin. See, when I'm writing, I don't want any pressure on me. So I'm someone who can't write with a gun to his head. I'm not very good with writing deadlines because I'm very clear with it. I'm not doing it for the money or the fame.
Right.
I'm just doing it. So for two things. One is a duty to my readers, and second thing is, of course, to make myself happy. That my ideas are coming out the way I want them to. Not having a gun to your head clearly helps, and it keeps the pressure off bay. And there is no pressure. It's just when I write, I write. When it will come out, it will come out. People still keep asking me about the sequel to The Other Side.
Yeah.
So that has been something in the making for about 4 years now. And I've completed almost all the stories just to give them an update. But it's just that I'm not finding the muse
Yeah.
for editing and revisiting them, right?
Sure.
Because right now my focus is on another project. So it keeps happening with me. As I said, I'm a moody writer. So I keep fluttering in between projects.
There's also a question that comes to mind about the quality of the output, so to speak. I mean, uh, uh, like in music, there's a lot of music, as one of the experts had once put it, that there's a lot of music that has no business to be in music that's out there as well. Do you have views on that in the literary field?
See, again, coming back to the earlier point, so post the commercialization of fiction specifically, or rather writing, I should say. So this when this commercial writing was discovered, and everyone who had a love story wanted to, kind of write it and proclaim it to the world. And soon I felt that we actually, as writers, we started feeling that there were, more writers than readers, and that was becoming a challenge, specifically when we meet each other in Lit Fest, and that's the point that keeps coming up, right? uh, However, I feel that if the work is good, and if you have, because marketing is also a little important today, and
Sure.
the work just gets lost in the biblio black hole otherwise. So a little
Absolutely.
bit of push is necessary, a little bit of luck is necessary, and of course the work has to be good.
Yeah.
So if these three things fall into the puzzle pie and click, then it works.
Faraz, as you said, marketing has sort of taken a very important role in the literary world, so to speak. And also, I guess the bills still will need to be paid, irrespective of the muse visiting or not. So, um,
Exactly.
I a lot of people that have, a lot of authors that I've interviewed have had a little bit of a problem with the marketing bit. They said that we've done our job with the writing bit. It's now up to the people to see if they want to push it or they want to read it. There are others who've also said that I think if I've written something, it's incumbent on me to actually go out there and tell people that, look, I've done this. Which Do you have a side on this, or do you have other views on this?
So when I wrote my first book, I realized that writing was the easier part. Now the publisher says, okay, we are just gonna put the book out, and there was no other activity, and I was like, okay, it's not gonna work this way. I'm not gonna get readers this way. That's not my ambition. So I had to take matters in my own hand. And fortunately, I was very tech savvy. I still am, and that's how. And I have a marketing background.
Right.
So I could, kind of identify the kind of target audience, the profiles, the reader profiles that I wanted to read my book. And I chalked out various campaigns. I used social media. I used SoundCloud. So TMD was the first book in the world to have an instrumental ringtone designed for it, right? And people could download it on their phones.
Right.
My second book, The Other Side, was the first book in the world to have an animated book cover where you could scan the QR code and the cover came alive. So there were
Mhm.
13 stories in the book. The 14th one was the on the cover. So you
Right.
had to scan it, the cover came alive and it told you a story. So you had to, I believe we have to use some innovation to kind of get noticed. It's very crowded out there, as you said. And if you want to get noticed, it's not just about good writing. It's also about making sure that you get noticed and to the right people.
That's important, of course. And also, finally, since we are living in the world of social media, and you said that it is important, it's also important that we make a bit of a listicle. So, 3 points that you'd like budding authors to remember writing in the genre that you write in, or otherwise as well.
Not just genre-wise. 3 points I would say. Number one is you have to be focused. You have to, disconnect yourself. I mean, it works for someone. Some people I've seen can, just sit in a coffee shop with all the, hustle bustle going on, and they can just write. But I believe, it's very important to stay focused and do justice to your work, right? But take it seriously, so disconnect from the world, maybe, for some time when you are facing something like a writer's block or find it challenging and the words are not coming out, and do something different. That usually helps. So that's number one. Number two is, read a lot, right? I have seen very successful authors defined by the sales, right? But when I have asked them, okay, what you are reading these days, they said, I don't read at all. So that has been very surprising for me. I am someone who had thousands of books. I grew up with thousands of books, and I used to read a book a day. But I'm not asking you to do that. But develop it as a hobby. Read authors that in the genre that you are writing or you love, right? And the third one, the most important one, which is a learning that I got from being in the industry for so long, is to have a very thick hide. When I say a thick hide, it's right from when you finish your book and send it to publishers, because that's where the challenge starts. It's gonna be a flurry of rejections, right?
For sure.
Even people like J.K. Rowling had to face a lot of rejections. Amish had to face a lot of rejections. So have a thick hide, keep trying, don't lose hope. And that also applies to the fact that when the book is out and people start talking anything, right? The people on Amazon give 1 star that, okay, delivery wala time pe nahi lake diya, okay, book ko 1 star. So, so have a thick hide. People will say, people will talk. Just know, what to take in and what to let out. So embrace, the good feedback and let go of the bad.
That's
Ignore
important.
the rest.
And that comes from someone who knows. And for sharing so generously of what you know, we'd like to thank you, Faraz Kazi. His latest book, The Sun, the Moon, and the Love in Between, is out there for you to sample, to taste, and see if those. Those ideas make for great food for thought. It's out there for you to buy. We are, of course, headed into a short little break, but not before expressing our eternal gratitude for Faraz for sparing the time. Faraz, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having being here. Sorry, it was a pleasure being here. And looking forward to your thoughts when you read the book.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's Turning a Page for today. Taking a break, coming right back right here on 94.1 Radio 1.
94.3 Radio 1.